everyone, welcome back to another video where today I'm going to talk to you about some of the latest Doctor Who news that has been unfolding over the last couple of days. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the main details that have been revealed in Doctor Who magazine, including a confirmed sort of general release time for the new spin-off, The War Between the Land and the Sea. We're also going to be talking a bit about what Julie Gardner had to say about Comic-Con, Disney, and a potentially new commission for Doctor Who. So lots to talk about. Subscribe if you're new, that would be greatly appreciated. We are trying to get to 25,000 subscribers as quickly as possible, and any support would be greatly appreciated on that front. But with that said, let's get right into it. So as you all know, this week had the release of the latest Doctor Who magazine, which was issue 608, I believe? Yeah, I think so. And yeah, I do like the cover. It mainly talks about the Madame Two Swords waxwork for Shiti Yatwa. Although I'm not sure why. I don't know whether you can see it on my screen here. They put like 100% official in like very, very obvious text. If anything, that makes it seem less official to me and more like a kind of bootleg product. So I'm not really sure what the thinking was there, but yeah. The first thing I wanted to talk about was the confirmation that The War Between the Land and the Sea will broadcast next year. Now, I'll be honest, for whatever reason, I assumed this wouldn't release until 2026. I guess I assumed that if, say, for example, Season 3 was filming a bit later, they might want something in 2026 to plug the gap if Season 3 took a bit longer, but no. At the opening of the magazine, they confirm production commences in August with location work taking place, appropriately enough, overseas. The series will be broadcast next year on BBC One and Disney Plus, where available internationally. So yeah, confirmation of a 2025 release date for The War Between the Land and the Sea, which, yeah, I'm quite happy with, you know, it's great for me. They mean more Doctor Who content, and I've said on Twitter, this will be the most Doctor Who content we have been privy to since, I believe, 2011. That was the year that had, not only did you have Series 6 in its entirety, I mean, it was split into two parts, but you also had, I believe, Torchwood Miracle Day was going on then, and you had a series of Sarah Jane Adventures as well. What a time to be alive. It's not quite that level, but we do have an 8-episode series coming next year, as well as the 5-episode spin-off. I still think the title is a little bit wordy, personally. I think it would have been better if they'd have called it, like, Unit Sea Invasion, or something like that, or just Unit, simply. I think The War Between the Land and the Sea, it's just a bit of a mouthful, and it doesn't necessarily roll off the tongue in the same way something like Doctor Who does, or like Torchwood did. But that's just my thought on that. But I'm very glad to hear that we're not going to be waiting too long to see this spin-off. And yeah, it's going to be a very busy year for us Doctor Who fans in 2025. So, interestingly, Julie Gardner has a whole section in this magazine talking about the San Diego Comic-Con and all the arrangements and things they got up to whilst they were there. And there's a couple of interesting quotes from her that I kind of want to digest here. The first one is this anecdote about a certain dinner. 7:30 p.m, Russell and I have dinner with the BBC's Nick Lambon, commissioning editor, and Leslie Bailey. But hush, spoilers. So a commissioning editor is basically, you know, someone they go to try and get things commissioned, and she's saying hush, spoilers, implying something new has been commissioned that's likely Doctor Who related, given that's what they're both there for. Now, this could just be them talking about Season 3, but given the fact that it says hush spoilers, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the beginning of the process of commissioning a follow-up spin-off beyond The War Between the Land and the Sea, at a guess. I think what they might be doing is sort of testing out smaller projects first, and then if one really hits the ground running, you know, they can continue that. I think it's really smart to only start with like a 5-episode like mini-series essentially and see how that goes. I will be curious to see what the barometer for success is for The War Between the Land and the Sea, because obviously, you know, we know Doctor Who itself, the main show, and its peak at the moment in terms of televisual ratings is getting like, you know, 5 million odd after like 7 days or whatever. So I'll be curious to see, you know, what does The War Between the Land and the Sea need to do in order to justify more spin-offs. Obviously, that's not including performance on Disney Plus, which we do have a slight indication of in the next segment. So then she's talking a bit about the actual panel itself and how she says, I slip out to join the audience, the joy in that room, the expectation as the theme and music kick in. Russell, Millie and Ncuti are roared to the stage that it's impossible not to feel the magic, of this wonderful show, British eccentric, full of heart and courage, 60 years old. It snows for Ruby, Nicola Colgan joined in a pre-recorded video, and we announce our first spin-off series, The War Between the Land and the Sea, starring Russell Tovey and Gugu Mbatha Raw. It's a blur, and we're back in the green room. Disney, our global partners are happy. Charlie Andrews, our executive, is buzzing. It's a moment. So, the key quote there is the line, Disney, our global partners are happy, which a lot of people have taken and sort of spoken about. This could just be, I want to make clear, could just be in reference to the panel itself. However, the fact that we at least know that Disney were very pleased with the reception Doctor Who received at Comic-Con is evidence to me that, they might not be as near the door as some outlets are suggesting. I was always going to talk about this, but never got around to it. We had it confirmed that in America, Disney Plus are selling the 60th anniversary DVDs and Blu-rays with the Disney logo on them. So that seems to me to indicate they've got some sort of deal to distribute the 60th and onwards internationally. And the thing about Doctor Who is that one of its key moneymakers has always been in DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff like that. Doctor Who fans love to buy stories they've already seen multiple times over. I mean, just recently, I bought the Season 1 Steelbook. It's behind me. We love doing that. And I think the fact that they are now beginning to sell Doctor Who DVDs and Blu-rays, that's probably going to add an extra incentive for the House of Mouse to stick around. Obviously, for them, it's likely chump change, but it's money they make for doing, frankly, very little. DVDs aren't exactly hard to produce. So I imagine that, they're going to want to keep that revenue source around for as long as possible. And we also know that at D23, which is sort of Disney's big separate event where they announce all of their big shows and movies and stuff, Doctor Who did have a section there dedicated to it, and it was part of the show reel for the sort of Disney Plus and Disney ecosystem, if you like. It's only 2 seconds long, but it does get a clip. So I think Disney is sticking around. I will be very shocked if Season 3 comes along and Disney aren't distributing it. I think they'll probably be around for as long as Russell/Shooty are around, whichever leaves first. That's my own sort of thinking on it. Could be wrong, nothing confirmed yet, but that's where my head's at. Just given everything we've seen, I don't think it makes sense for them immediately to be like, oh, we've had 2 series of a spin-off that you've commissioned. That's it, we're done. They'll probably at least see the era through. And it'll also be interesting to see if the back catalogue ever gets released on Disney Plus as well. I'm not quite sure where the rights are for all of it, but I think that would also be an extra incentive for them as well. And then on another sort of element of this, back at the hotel, A.O. Davis, president of Disney Branded Television, invites us to a celebration they're hosting for their shows at Comic-Con. We meet some of the team behind Futurama. I catch up with an actress, Alex Borstein, who I'd worked with on HBO's Getting On. It's a glorious celebration of television, and there are marvellous snacks after a day of protein bars. I sleep better, though still fight with the air conditioning. So yeah, the fact that they're also being invited to the Disney branded television events alongside, the writers of Futurama and stuff, the relationship seems strong. And I guess you could say that, it's Doctor Who magazine. They're not exactly going to say, it's going terribly, everything's going wrong. But I think just looking at the visual evidence you can see with your eyes, I think Doctor Who will stick around on Disney Plus internationally. We had an entire segment about the brand new 13th Doctor and Yaz Big Finish audios that were announced a few weeks ago, which I never spoke about, but I'm fairly interested to see what they do with them. Obviously, you guys know it's not my favourite era by any stretch of the imagination. However, Big Finish do have a tendency of taking Doctors that were not as well liked at the time and kind of giving them a new lease on life, a new coat of paint, and sort of reinvigorating them and revitalising them in the eyes of fans anyway. And I'll be interested to see if they can do that for me with the 13th Doctor at least. But this quote is very funny to me and actually somewhat reassuring as well of the range itself. This is from my good friend Jess over on Twitter. Quote from today's DWM, I'm not saying anything. Yaz is a big part of the first one we did, says Mandip. It's her storyline. The Doctor coming in and interrupting her weekend with her friends. In our season 1 and 2, says Jodie, the Doctor would have the majority to say. What's great in this instance is that Mandip has loads to do, and it's so fun. It's great to hear Yaz's character in its entirety. So, essentially, that in the politest way possible is Jodie going, yeah, Mandip / Yaz had sod all to do in series 11 and 12, which actually does give me some hope for this range, that they are remedying some of the issues I had with the televisual run. I always find it interesting when Doctors leave the respective eras that they were a part of, because they tend to become a little bit more honest as time progressed with what really went on and stuff like that. And it's interesting to just kind of hear Jodie be a bit more open. Obviously, she's still nice about it, and I'm not saying that, oh, she actually hates the era she was in. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think it's interesting to have her basically say something that we all sort of felt during that run. And it does reassure me that Big Finish are doing their best to kind of improve that with these new audios. Finally, we do have a confirmed new actor. This time, it's the Silurian that we've seen in the Joy to the World trailer. This is an actor named Jonathan Aris, who was apparently a Sherlock regular, and he is the man playing the Silurian in the next episode. What's interesting about this is I do remember some people saying that the makeup looked a bit off. Honestly, I think this is just because they've gotten a new person in the makeup. I think for most of the Smith era, the Silurians were played by 1 or 2 people tops. So I think that might be one of the reasons why it looks a bit off, because it's a different guy. But I will be interested to see how the Silurians kind of factor into this story. I'm imagining, to be honest, it's probably more likely going to be an opening gag. The Silurian's name is apparently Melnak, which is a very Doctor Who-y name in and of itself. What are your thoughts on any of this? Be sure to drop them down in the comments, like the video if you enjoyed. Thank you as well, I want to say, for 10,000 followers over on X/Twitter. I know it's a bit of a hellscape, but at this point I've spent too long on it to just leave it. So thank you for all your support over there as well as on here. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later.